her loyal sons. We'll get 'em on the run, boys, we got 'em on the run. Yes, we are her loyal sons. We'll get 'em on the run, boys, we got 'em on the run.
Okay. Hey everyone, welcome back to Her Loyal Sons TV. I'm Molly Moran with Ryan Ritter, and we have a special guest sitting here next to me. This is my dad, Pat Moran. Say hi,
Hi,
everyone.
everybody. Go Irish.
Would you like to do a brief introduction? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, sure. I've been rooting for Notre Dame since 1953.
Oh, wow.
I can just about every game. I've been to about 55 games at Notre Dame. I've been about 40-something at Notre Dame. I've seen Notre Dame play Pitt a few times. I've seen the Alabama game, Air Parseed's last game. I saw Lou Holtz's first game, Jerry Faust's first game, and the greatest game I ever saw at Notre Dame Stadium was Notre Dame 3, LSU nothing.
And
Wow.
today he's going to help us analyze the Stanford game.
That'll be simple.
Let's do it.
All right. That sounds great then.
I see no problem at all.
Okay, so let's start with just some initial reactions. Ryan, let's start with you.
Well, the initial reaction was, thank God that we won. I know now my wife's getting into Notre Dame football because as I'm sitting here like having a minor panic attack as we're getting closer and closer to fourth down on that magical play, she said, it's like she's sitting here like, I'm getting a heart attack right now. So I think I've finally passed on the obsession, and the craziness has now affected her as well.
I think
But
so.
I've already had 4 heart transplants, so
Yeah.
Oh.
no, it's decent. Watching Notre Dame is like no other game. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, and
It's
it was
completely
one of,
different.
yeah, it was one of those things to where I was just on that fourth down play, just like, please, just get the first down. And when I saw Golson throw to the end zone, I mean, I didn't stop breathing until I saw Koyak wide open in the
Well,
end
you
zone.
can tell by the way he threw the ball that he saw somebody. Just by
Yeah,
the fact of the way he let it go, you knew somebody was open. Whether they were going to catch the ball, whether it was going to be in bounds was something else. But just you can watch the quarterback, and he looked confident the way he was throwing the ball. If you remember when the ball was intercepted early in the game, that wasn't a very confident pass. He just floated that, and I don't know what he was doing, right? When he intercepted the ball at about the 2-yard line.
oh yeah, completely agree. He was, and he did that a lot at the beginning of the game. He was.
You noticed yesterday he floated a lot to the left. A
Yeah,
lot of his passes were going. He was going to the left, buying time, and that's what he did on the last play. He kept on buying time, and I think Stanford made a big mistake in the last drive. I think they played more of a bend don't break type of defense, and I think it caught up with them.
yeah, and I'm really not sure what their defense did on the last play because they looked completely confused. There's no reason, especially considering the game situation, that any player on Notre Dame gets that wide open. Much less a gigantic tight end target
Well,
that's
that's
just
true.
standing there.
Well, I think if you looked at the game yesterday, Notre Dame's plan was to take Ty Montgomery out of the game.
Yeah.
Evidently, Stanford's game plan was to take Will Fuller out of the game. And both were pretty successful. The only time Notre Dame messed up was when they kicked off that time to Ty Montgomery late in the game, and he returned the ball almost to the 50.
Right,
That guy
yeah.
gets an open field, he's dangerous. He's
Yes,
dangerous in open field.
And one interesting thing about Ty, though, he had some drops, which was kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting
did.
him to drop passes, but
Well,
I
he had
agree.
some drop passes, and so did Corey Robinson, and so did Amir Carlisle. I think the weather played a little bit. You're sitting there watching the game, and you got to remember, 18 to 2-year-old kids playing like great, going towards the away from the tunnel. The wind was blowing; those balls were floating a lot. If you noticed that, where we were coming the other way, on our final drive, the wind was with us.
Yes.
When Stanford scored at the end, the wind was against them.
He's a meteorologist.
The play that set up Stanford was the good scramble by the quarterback.
Right.
3 Notre Dame players almost had him, and he broke loose for about 30 yards. Remember?
Yes, and the weird part was when Stanford went that direction at the beginning of the game, they kept having Hogan pass deep, and you could tell. I mean, they're just lame ducks in the air because of the wind.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like what they were trying to do. They were working on Matthias Farley. Somehow they liked the matchup of the tight end of Stanford against Farley, and it worked most of the game. He was about the only guy really open most of the game, and he was making a lot of the catches. But Notre Dame stymied their running. Stanford's running outside of some scrambles by the quarterback and a run by the kid for the touchdown here with 3 minutes to go. other than that, they never ran that well. When they hit 50, 60 yards. Of course, Notre Dame didn't run that well either.
40.
Yeah, 47 total yards for Stanford is what I got the box score up, and Notre Dame had 129 total rushing yards. Cam McDaniel led with 41, so nobody really had a huge game for Notre Dame. But when Stanford, your bread and butter is supposed to be running the ball, it was pretty incredible that we really restricted every single one of their running backs to. They had 1.5 yards a carry as a team, which is unreal.
Well, I think the key, the Notre Dame defense, early in the year, everybody thought the offensive line was going to be our strength, and the defense would be weak. Right now, it looks like the defense is really waking up, and the offensive line's a little bit disorganized. Even when Notre Dame had running plays yesterday, a couple times, Golson ran into Ronnie Stanley. They weren't waiting for him. Even when they were trying to open a hole, they didn't let him open the hole. You got to wait for the hole to be open. And then a couple times, Bryant cut the wrong way, and even Golson cut the wrong way a couple times. If he would have cut the other way, he would have got a lot more yardage. So, I mean, it's not always the offensive line. Sometimes the running back's got to sort of wait for his blocking and go. But it seems like Bryant dances around too much. At least Cam McDaniel, when he gets the ball, he goes. He just keeps on fighting for every inch he can get. You hear him do that.
Yeah.
He's messing around in the back, making jukes.
Right, I completely agree. That's been a problem with probably some of our more physically talented running backs. Has been they haven't been cutting the right direction. They've been trying to make too much happen. And on your point with Brian, he did. I mean, you should make probably one move. Two is really pushing it, but he kind of did like three jukes.
The two key runs for Notre Dame yesterday was Golson at the end of the first half when he went 38 yards on that 3rd and 13 or whatever it was, and that end around that they tried with C.J. Procise. Those were the two best. Stanford's biggest play was the blocked field goal. The kid got it and ran about 39 yards with it. The second field goal that was botched.
Yeah.
Which,
poor Hunter Smith, man.
And the field goal, as far as that's concerned, last year Notre Dame's holder was an ex-quarterback because he went to the same high school I went to. He went to St. Xavier in Cincinnati. And if you remember, I don't know if you ever remember, but Joe Theismann used to hold. Notre Dame right now can't. The Bengals have their punter hold, but Notre Dame brings a punts. He kicks off. He kicks field goals. So you have to. I think they should get somebody like the second string quarterback to hold the ball. Somebody that's used to getting the ball. Because he was cold. It wasn't the kid's fault. Everybody up at the bookstore probably was buying Notre Dame Under Armour gloves, but the only guy that didn't have gloves was the guy that should have had them on. The third time he had the gloves on.
Yeah, Kelly actually mentioned that in the post-game conference. He joked that he thinks he just revolutionized field goal holding by giving the holder gloves.
Right. So, I mean, it wasn't really with the weather. You're coming in cold. You're not playing. It's not. He botched them, but I mean, I can see it. I mean, he's not in the game. He's not warmed up. He's not used to taking snaps. I mean, I think the second string quarterback, usually they're the guys that usually hold the ball. I mean, Darryl LaMonica held, Joe Theismann held, guys held. Well, they were used to holding the ball. Now everything's specialized. You got a certain guy that snaps. You got a certain guy that does this, a certain guy that does that. I mean. And when he had the gloves on, it was fine. He took the ball, put it down, and the kid kicked it 47 yards for the field goal. So, I mean,
Yeah.
The weather wasn't that great.
Yeah, and I think on the second hold, I think there was also some nerves, and he was kind of in his own head because, I mean, he just looked shaky.
Well, sure, that's right.
Together.
Exactly. Well, sure, you're thinking about the last one. Yeah. You're thinking about, and when you start thinking, you're in trouble.
Exactly.
You think, here comes the ball. I'm going to take them. It's got to be by rote. It's just like when you start a car. You put the key in, you go. You don't say, I'm now putting the key in the ignition. Right. I'm now turning the ignition. I'm taking off the brake. It's got to come naturally. Ask Steve Sachs from the Dodgers. He used to get ground balls and get the ball and throw it over the first baseman's head because he was thinking too much. You can't think. It's got to come natural. And I think that's what happened.
That's true.
It wasn't his fault. I mean, I felt bad for him. I'm glad that wasn't the determining fact.
Yeah.
I hate to see anybody, and anybody. I just hate to see an 18, 19-year-old kid being berated because he didn't catch the ball.
Exactly. So gloves and don't think next time. We got this.
Yeah,
it's good.
Right.
Got it all figured out.
That's perfect.
I mean, that's what I do. I get the
Oh,
second
you do?
string quarterback to still boys used to handle the ball.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
You know.
Yeah, and I don't know
You
if
get
it's
the
a
ball.
yeah, because backup. I've seen that a lot. Backup quarterbacks handle it. I wonder if there's a fear that you don't want to get your backup quarterback injured on a freak accident. I wonder if that may have something to do with
Well, that could do something. You could get a freak accidit coming out of the tunnel. You can trip over the popcorn man. I mean, you can't worry about that stuff. I mean, you got to play the game. Once you start worrying about that, you're in trouble. Guys are flying with every which way. You got to stay. That's when you get hurt. Is when you stop playing and you stand there and watch,
Right.
and some guy clips you or something, and you're in a wheelchair for the rest of the year. So, well, I mean, you got to watch.
Okay, so cover a lot of ground there.
Well, yeah,
I'm
we'll
loving
cover the
this.
ground. We'll cover the ground here. No
Let's
problem.
do it.
Well, I mean, I even noticed, like, with the new turf, did you notice a lot of guys slipping yesterday?
Yeah,
Colton
and
Luke slipped on the first interception.
mhm.
Normally, in a situation like that, on 3rd and long, on about the 9-yard line, the other team's got that far to go, you would just knock the ball down. You wouldn't even intercept it. But I think he intercepted it with the intention he could run it, and he fell down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a new turf up there, but the weather must have been a lot worse than it appeared on television.
Yeah, I mean, I know people that were at the game were basically saying they were still thawing out 2 hours later, so it was
Yeah,
pretty nasty out there.
already. I know
Yeah,
that.
I think the one up there didn't even stay in the stadium. I
Yeah.
saw some pictures and they were like, okay, I'm inside. I was like, oh, that didn't last long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
right. I know. That was.
You either get a beautiful day or it's tough. I mean, I've seen either the most beautiful day in the world in South Bend or the world's worst.
Well, you're
day.
gonna have this like the whole season's in a week, so that happens.
Yeah, but one thing I'm glad we had the crappy weather for Stanford, because if there's any team that's going to be the most affected by it, it's the team that just came from nice sunny California.
Well, sure.
That's true.
They came without any kind of parkas. I saw the same
Parka.
thing
No.
in 19.
No,
I saw
it's
the-
huge.
I saw the same thing in like 1973 or 4 when they played Miami, Florida. They came up. They actually had Miami Dolphin parkas because they weren't.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
come up there, it's a lot different when you're 82 degrees and back home and 30 something at Notre Dame.
That's true.
And that's another reason Southern Cal doesn't come up to Notre Dame anymore. Cal will come to Notre Dame when they play at Notre Dame, unless it's early in the year. They won't come up late. They
Right.
won't come to Notre Dame. But we got to go there late.
Yeah.
When we're used to the cold weather and it's hot there,
Mhm.
that's just as difficult to play when your blood's thick and it thins out.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, it's the advantage Southern Cal and that kind of a deal. Weather-wise.
So let's see. We've covered what we've covered.
Well,
a
you
lot of
covered.
stuff.
You can cover about basically the game was the last three and a half
That's
minutes.
true. I mean, the last
Yeah.
play.
I mean, there was
kind of
14 points scored in the first 3 quarters, and 17 points were scored in the last,
Well, yeah, because
second half of the 4th quarter. You know what
yeah, I mean, I couldn't be watching, but I knew it was tied at halftime. So I was like, well, it's basically 0-0 starting the second half. I was kind of calm. Read my timeline, got uncalm really fast, but
Yes, I saw
Well,
that.
Notre
You were
Dame-
panicking.
I was panicking so bad.
Well, Notre-
People visibly saw that something was wrong. They're like, Molly, what's wrong? And I was like, Notre Dame football. It's wrong right now.
Well, you could tell that game was either going to come down to the last play or it was going to be overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was just one of those games you could tell the way the game was going. It was just one of those type of games where it was either going to be overtime, which I hate. I just think I hate college's overtime. I like the pros better the way they play that. That going for the 20-something yard line and playing around, and I just hate that.
Yeah.
It
Because
changes the game
let's
completely.
face it. Well, it's just like this. Take a guy like Hanratty or take a guy like Theismann. They never had that kind of a thing. I could throw 7 touchdown passes in overtime, and that counts. And my total could be like I have 39, 40 touchdown passes that year.
Mhm.
Not from the 10-yard line. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You compare records. That's just like trying to compare this team with the 43 team. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous because you're comparing one of the greatest that ever played. Just because they had 30 points, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean a daggone thing. I mean, it's great to think, stats are great and this and that. All you got to do is look at the scoreboard. The only thing that matters is if you have more points than the other team at the end. I don't care about, how many yards they had passing, rushing. It's just whether you win the game or not. And they say, "Oh, we should be more like Stanford." No, Stanford should be more like us.
He didn't watch our last episode.
We got
He
the
said that.
we got the 11 national championships.
Yeah, Ryan, he had a whole discussion
we
about
got the
that.
11 national, not them.
Exactly.
I mean, they should be more like us. We should be like the 66 team. We should be like the 77 team. We should be like the 73 team. We should be like the 47 team. We should be like Notre Dame. Don't worry about the rest of those teams. We're the magical team, not them.
Wow, someone's a little fired up here.
Well, I am.
I wanted to be a guest.
I am fired up.
That's what you get.
No, it's fantastic. I agree. You can't compare them. I think the 43 is more like, wow, it's been that long, because no, that is one of the best teams that Notre Dame's ever did.
Well,
and
sure
it's
it is.
impossible
This
to
guy
say
played
that.
both ways. I mean, you had guys going both ways. It was a different football, you know.
Yeah.
They came back with 2-platoon football in 1964. And that's what helped Notre Dame. I mean, in 1963, they used to waste it down getting Darryl LaMonica on the field when they got the ball. They would just throw the ball because the quarterback sometimes he wasn't in the game. So they come off 2nd and 10. It was different.
Yeah.
It's all different. It's been changed basically because of the pros. Everybody's specialized now. The last guy in the pros to go both ways that was really great was Chuck Bednarik. He's the guy that put Frank Gifford out of football.
Yeah.
He played both ways. He played both ways for the Eagles.
And you don't even see it in college, save for UCLA, and I forget the linebacker / running back's name off the top of my head, but he's the only one that's doing that now.
Well, sure, but they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
They don't do that because if you lose him, you lose two positions.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You lose 2 positions if that guy gets hurt. That's just like with Notre Dame. If Brinsley gets hurt, you lose the punter, you lose the place kicker, you lose the kickoff.
You have to knock on wood or something now.
Yeah, so he's got to stay healthy.
Dangerous.
He's got to stay healthy. You know.
My goodness.
But another key thing in that game yesterday was when Stanford kicked the ball out of bounds. We got the ball at the 35-yard line. And that kid let it go. It just barely went out of bounds at about the half-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
That was another key play. There was a lot of key plays in a close game like that.
Yeah, and Stanford making
a million plays.
Stanford had 2 costly penalties on that drive too, and
for a team that's ranked number 1 in defense, and look at our defense, which is basically young guys. They made most of the mistakes of hitting guys out of bounds or grabbing face masks. Notre Dame didn't make that mistake.
Dumb penalties.
We're not making dumb penalties like we made a few years ago.
yeah, Stanford had 9 penalties for 66 yards. Notre Dame only had the 1 holding call on Chris Brown, which is interesting because Stanford was holding left and right and never got called for it, so that number should have been a lot bigger.
They held a couple times. You can say they were holding Jaron Jones. They were holding Day on a couple plays. They never called him.
Mm-hmm.
They never called him.
The worst one was when they were literally, you could see the offensive lineman holding Jalen Smith's leg, and he's hopping up and down trying to get free right in front of the referee. No flag. It was incredible how they didn't call anything.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. There's only 2 people to wear striped shirts: people in prison and referees. And the only way you can really, I'm telling you something. So what you got to do in football is you got to keep on scoring. You got to take the refs out of the game.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you something. During Eric Parsee's reign at Notre Dame, he actually lost about 4 games because of the other team. And there was a lot of games he lost because of very poor officiating.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at one, Missouri, when the ball was on the 2-yard line,
Mm-hmm.
and they called it a touchdown. And there was a pass interference against Jim Seymour against Michigan State at the end. They didn't call that. I mean, Arrow lost about 4 or 5 games legitimately.
So this is pent up.
Well, I'm just telling you that you got to take the refs out of the, because you know as well as I do, in a close game, and the calls come down like that, 9 times out of 10, that call's going to go against Notre Dame because they figure Notre Dame's not going to cry about it. We're not going to hear nothing in the paper about it. Where take the 63 game or the 61 game when Ben Schwartzwalder cried because Notre Dame got the extra field goal attempt. And we tried a 60-something yard field goal, which was ridiculous, but they roughed the kicker. But you heard about it for 10 weeks after the game. Even Mayor Daley wanted to give him some kind of an award for being a great coach. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's the same old thing. I mean, you know, if Notre Dame's involved, it's a different game. It's a different game when the Irish come out of the tunnel. Regardless of what people say, there's no gray area with Notre Dame. They either love them or they hate them. And that's why they're a polarizing team. These people either love them to death or they can't stand them. There's no saying, like, if Notre Dame's on TV, some guy goes, you won't want anybody saying, I don't really care who wins the game. Yeah, sure.
Right,
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Yeah, and I love it with the complaints because you had David Shaw in this game complaining about the band of all things for playing too.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah,
the tuba.
Yeah, well, yeah. He's going to complain about something,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just one of those games where I mean, Golson had a tough time most of the game, but he came through when you had to come through. I mean, a less mobile quarterback, we would have been in trouble yesterday.
Are we alluding to someone?
No, I'm not talking. No. I'm just saying a less mobile. No, if we would have just had strictly a pocket passer, anybody, not Tommy Reed. I'm just talking the way Stanford was rushing, they would have been in trouble. It's just they had. Sometimes Stanford had a three-man line and got in on the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which is crazy.
So they did a good job. I mean, I just think they played it wrong at the end. At the end, they played it wrong. They should have been attacking. They should have been blitzing. I mean, I like the way Van Gorder plays defense. I never saw a quarterback ever complete a pass on his back.
Right, and that's exactly what Van Gorder did at the end of the game. The game ended on an intentional grounding call because he brought the safety into blitz.
Exactly. The 2005 when Liner completed that pass to that guy for about 80 yards, that's what we should have been doing. Man. Rush him.
I was on the sideline.
Put the pressure on it. If he completes it, more power to him. But put the pressure on the quarterback. There's something about having a guy in your face or chasing you. You don't have that timing. You let a guy sit back there and bend, don't break. I can get open on a 52.5-yard field if the quarterback's got all day, because I know where I'm going. That defensive man don't.
Exactly. Yeah. You can only go long.
I can still, give me an hour and a half. I can break.
So, let's see here. Where do we want to go from there? Do we want to talk about some MVPs or something?
Oh, the MVPs of the game?
Ryan, let's start with you.
Go ahead.
You get on your
who do you think's number one? Who do you think deserves it?
Well, I am, despite his 2 errors, I'm going to give it to Golson because it reminded me a lot of the Pitt game in 2012 because we don't win that game without Golson. Period. End of story. I completely agree with your Pat on that because it's not going to happen if we have a pocket passer. Golson, and on that last play, he bought enough time for Koyak to find the corner in the end zone where Stanford wasn't. So I got to give it to him. 2 errors.
I agree with you. I think he was the offensive player for Notre Dame.
Yeah. Oh, do you have a defensive one?
The defense? I give it to the whole dang on team.
The whole defense?
I mean, they played well. I mean, you got all these guys this year. Notre Dame for years has been weak at defensive end. Mm-hmm. The last really great defensive ends they've had were Willie Fry and Ross Browner. I mean, really dominant. You got to turn. They don't get around Notre Dame's ends. I mean, they don't turn the corner on Notre Dame's ends. I mean, they get everything back in the middle. Jalen Smith and our buddy Schmidt make the tackles.
Our buddy.
But you got to have somebody to turn them back in.
Yeah.
And that's what your job is, to turn them back in so they get tackled. I think the Notre Dame defense is playing spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean,
They are.
They really are. I mean, they're playing great. I mean, you got all these guys out and this and that. I'll tell you what, when they come back, let them sit on the bench because don't spoil something that's working. You got the main thing right now. Teach them a lesson. You know what I mean? I mean, let's face it. If Jared Grace wasn't hurt, he might be in there playing. Nothing against Jared Grace. He's from Cincinnati, Coleraine. I'm from Cincinnati. I knew how he played in high school. But this Joe Schmidt would have been sitting on the bench. He wouldn't even be in the game.
And he is playing fantastic football.
But he's in there and he's not coming out.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
He knows where the ball is. The key on defense is knowing where the ball is, not running around like a chicken with your head cut off. It's jumping on everybody after the tackle's made. This guy actually knows where the ball is, and he made some really nice stops yesterday. He caught that one guy from behind us pretty quick on a couple of plays.
He's also in the Joe Schmidt.
Well, no, he knows where the ball is. I mean, he does. So does Jalen Smith. But those guys know.
They do.
They know where the ball is. And that's most of the and the other thing that separates this team from last year's team, they're much better at tackling and gang tackling. Mm-hmm. Last year in that Michigan game, that one end broke through 5 tackles. I mean, you got to tackle the guy. Mm-hmm. And don't try to hit him and knock him over. Grab him right around the ankles. Mm-hmm. You know, just knock him down. You don't have to be, hit the guy and knock him up in the stands. Just knock him down. And they're playing really good defense. I like Van Gorder's. I like the way the guy plays.
Yeah.
He knows how to coach defense.
He does.
That's the way you play the defense. You don't always hit the blitz on every play, but man, when they're coming, that poor quarterback at the end, I mean, he was getting killed. You know, at the last game, that last play, he would have been, you know,
Right.
lucky he threw the ball out of bounds and the game was over. Because they were coming. That's what you got to do. You cannot let the guy, because all they needed was a field goal.
Yeah.
Right.
And they didn't need 55 yards. They just
Exactly.
needed about 20 yards,
Yeah.
and who knows what the kid would have done.
Let's not think
You know
about
what
it.
I mean?
Ryan, your thoughts? Defense?
Oh, I completely agree because the defense played great. And on the note of tackling, one of the things that stood out in my mind was, you know, Cody Riggs seeing, you know, Ty Montgomery try to jump over him. He just kind of casually just knocks his ankle out. And lets him jump
Right.
over.
Exactly.
But yeah, this defense knows how to play, and I know a lot of people, and me included, was concerned about the aggressive style because we saw Tenuta's defense just fail, and it was that blitzing aggressive defense. But Bangorder's defense, they know how to go after the ball. They're not blitzing with their heads cut off. They're doing everything is done with a purpose, and everybody is doing their job, and they're not losing containment, which was exactly what Tenuta's defense could not do. They would lose assignments, lose containment constantly. So yeah, and this is a lot like what we talked about Syracuse. We said, yeah, the whole defense played great because it's almost impossible to pick somebody out at this point.
Well, that's true. And in the first time Stanford scored, that was on the offense. You get a good team the ball on the 12-yard line, they should score.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, see, that's not against the defense.
Right.
You know, so I mean, really, Stanford had one drive the whole game. Most of the time, they had a lot of 3 and outs. And if you remember last year, they had that one kid that Gaffney was running around, and then they had that Toby Gerhardt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, yesterday they stopped Montgomery, and I think they took the wind out of him. When he couldn't do anything. He had one real good kickoff return, and that was about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was an absolute non-factor in the game.
He was.
They did a perfect job. It reminded me, I was like, you know what? We played Michigan, and they had this one big playmaker we had to be concerned about, and we shut down Funchess, too. So that Notre Dame knows how to shut people down. I think that's becoming clear.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You got to, if they got one guy, and really one guy shouldn't beat you. You should be able to, you know what I mean? Or Notre Dame, they shut down Fuller, but, you know, it seemed like yesterday Notre Dame was going to Chris Brown most of the time, and he was like a non-factor in a few games. So but Notre Dame's got, I know DeVaris Daniels isn't playing, but if he was playing, he'd probably be like the prime guy, you know, like Michael Floyd. This way, they got 6 or 7 guys. They don't know who the ball's coming to. I mean, at the end, did you think he'd be throwing the Koyak?
No, I didn't at all. And even
right.
with Brown, I actually made a mistake in the post. I'm so used to Fuller being the one scoring a touchdown every game. I brain farted, thought the first touchdown actually went to Fuller. But no, Chris Brown got so heavily involved in this game, and the touchdown he scored on that crossing route was a Will Fuller style touchdown. He just got open and found a route to the end zone.
And he made the key block on that run by C.J. Prosise.
Yes, he did.
He's the one that took that. He took the end or whoever it was pursuing. He made a good block. And that's what you got to do on a short, this kind of run. You got to take that first guy out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You got to take him out, then you get the lane. If you don't take him out, the whole play's done.
Right.
You know, it's just like when they have those quick passes out to both lines. If that first guy doesn't block, it doesn't work. You know, the only thing I just don't understand why Notre Dame what they don't employ is a screen pass more often.
Coming.
Well, because when the other team's coming in, if they're that juiced up, let them come in.
Mm-hmm.
Fake it and then get the lineman behind and just float the pass over to somebody. You know, he's only got a few guys to beat at that point. They're not really a good screen team.
Yeah, which is interesting because we did it against Syracuse constantly.
Yeah, I would employ it more. You know what I mean? And against Syracuse, most of our faux pas were deep in their territory.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I mean, yesterday we left figuring we would have scored a touchdown the time that he got the interception at about the 2-yard line. We left at least 9 points on the field, 2 missed field goals. That could have been a field goal or a touchdown, 9 to 16 points. That would have been your 30 points or whatever. We could have compared them to the 47 team then, you know. All I'm worried about is just keep on getting the W. Because if Notre Dame stays undefeated, there'll be no way they'll be able to keep them out of any kind of I was just hoping Florida State stayed number 1. I noticed they're number 2, but
this will be a good segue. We can talk about rankings because Notre Dame's number 5 right now. So clearly, you're thinking just keep winning, doing your thing. You don't really care where they are right now.
No, I don't care because of Notre Dame with the schedule they play. If they stay undefeated, they'll be one of the 14.
Okay, Ryan, your thoughts?
I completely agree. And with as crazy as a week we had, and I mentioned it somewhere when it was clear UCLA was probably going to lose after the entire crazy day, I said, here's a theory. We're probably having so many upsets because people don't know how to do polls properly this early in the season. So, I mean, everybody's just it's all guesswork until after October where you really start to see separation.
That's right. If you looked at early in the year, I had some friends, they told me that Oklahoma would be undefeated because they looked at their schedule and they said there's no way they can lose those games. That's the worst thing you can do in college football is go in and think we got the game. You're dealing with 18, 20, and it's so emotional, and that team upset them. You know,
especially when you're on the road. I mean,
exactly. Mississippi, you know, they upset Alabama, you know. And Mississippi State's playing good football, and Texas A&M, you know, they got run off the field. I mean, early in the year, this team, you got to play the games. You know, you play the games. And this year, let's not forget, we don't play Pitt, we don't play Michigan State. And I'll tell you something, Michigan State's always a tough team to beat, and so is Pitt. You know, I'm not saying there's other teams to replace them are going to be, but I'd rather be playing Louisville and North Carolina than Pitt and Michigan State. Michigan State in the 60s, late 50s, 60s, beat us 11 straight times. I
like that you're looking at me like I was alive.
Well, I'm just saying.
I remember that.
I mean, Michigan State, you know, in 1973 when we won the national championship, we were up 14-0 early. Then we won the game 14-10 and had to intercept the pass at the end of the game to win. They're tough.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh's been playing us real tough too. So I mean, you know, I'm sort of.
So you like where the schedule is right now? I
hope Notre Dame plays. I'd rather play good teams every week, though.
Yeah.
I have no. If Notre Dame plays number 1 through 11, that's all right with me. I'd rather lose to a Florida State than lose to a Tulsa. Or well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I follow.
And I think the thing that Kelly's doing at Notre Dame is he's regained home field advantage. He's only lost one game the last 3 years. Oklahoma last year, and. You got to win on your home turf. You can't let these guys come in and, I mean, there for a while under Davey and under Michigan State was coming in and running us off the field. I mean, running us off the field.
Yeah.
Just literally taking the ball, running it down our throats. You got to control your own destiny, your own field, and they're doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. The confidence that this team has at home right now, even that Oklahoma game, you look back on it, you can say, wow, we probably could have won that if we hadn't have made so many mistakes.
They could have won it. But their defense, after Atkinson made that long run, Oklahoma took the ball and they moved down the field and they scored. And I got to give them credit. That's what you got to do. You got to answer a score with a score, and they did. Notre Dame had no answer for that. But, yeah, they had a chance to win it. What I like about Notre Dame right now, and I told a fellow, we're from Cincinnati, and Brian Kelly coached at Cincinnati. And Cincinnati winning 2 or 3 games a year was a big deal. This guy brought them almost to the national championship game. When they fired Weiss and they were thinking about, let's get Kelly or let's get that Etzel from Maryland, I said they got to get Kelly. Because if Kelly gets the players, Kelly will win. Because he's got a system. If he keeps on getting the players, they just got this kid from Cincinnati Elder. If he gets the players,
right? And we kind of alluded to that last show.
If he gets the players, he'll have Notre Dame in a game every week. And that's all you can ask for. All you can ask for is to have a chance to win.
Right.
And it's not just getting the players. He knows how to develop the players. Exactly. He knows how to put the players in a position to succeed.
Exactly. That's the way Eric Parseghian was. He took the 63 team. He took guys that were defensive backs and made them halfbacks. He took 2 guys he took Paul Costa and Jim Snowden, who were halfbacks under Joe Kuharich, because Kuharich came from the pros and one of the big elephant backfield. One became an offensive tackle, one became a tight end, and they played in the pros forever. Because he took a guy like John Ewart, who never did anything, and made him a Heisman Trophy winner. That's exactly right. You got the guys on the team, put them in the right positions.
Right.
They got the talent. Notre Dame's got talent up there. I mean, they got,
so fired up.
They do. They have talent. Guys, and they're playing together, and that's what you want. And they're starting to believe in themselves. All you got to do is have a bunch of guys that believe in yourself. You don't need guys like Alex Rodriguez and all these big hot shots. Just get 11 guys playing together.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes up the difference. It does. It makes the difference. You need all these hot shots.
Right.
If those guys, when those guys want to come back, let this Cole Luke and them guys play.
Yeah.
Let them. Don't break up a winning combination.
Okay, so.
Like the Chicago Cubs did one year when they let one player come back because he's making the big salary and they had to put him in when the other kid was doing well.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like about college. It's not based on salaries. Not based on salary.
So, I was going to say, we know you. So you're thinking, we're saying that we might allude to the Frozen Five because those hearings are over. We don't know what that means. We just know that they're over. We don't know when they're coming back. But you're saying doesn't matter.
I'm saying they'll probably work their way back into the eventually.
But you're not really
I wouldn't
concerned.
take them and put them in right away. Like this other guy's been playing for 5 games and all of a sudden, this guy's back or that guy's back.
Yeah.
Hey, this other guy's been contributing. They're starting to have a winning combination.
Yeah.
They're going to keep on playing. They're going to stay in there.
Right. Fair enough. Ryan, your thoughts?
I tend to agree as well. It's going. They'll probably find a way to work him back in, but I mean, if you look at it, Kavari Russell, maybe you put him in at nickelback, maybe, because I don't think you take him out of the top 2 cornerbacks that we have going right now, because Luke and Riggs are playing great football. Why would you bench them? And I think of all people, I think DeVaris Daniels might have the easiest time breaking back in, but even then, there's also the other thing of a lot of, especially when you're doing passing and get the timing down, a lot of that is, it's instinct and knowing where the other guy is going to be. And with Daniels, I mean, not just being out these games, but keep in mind, Golson hasn't run plays with him for now about 1.5 years. So that's a huge stretch to try to get used to somebody.
Sure it is. And Will Fuller, I mean, even yesterday, he was open in the end zone. That ball was thrown a little late. If he throws that ball on time, he catches it even behind the 3 Stanford guys. You know what I mean?
They still nearly caught it too.
Right. They didn't close on him. They closed on the ball. It was. I'm not knocking, but he can run by anybody.
Right.
If Notre Dame wants to stretch the field, they don't need DeVaris Daniels. They can just get him. And this Torrey Hunter's starting to break in. I mean, they got plenty of guys that can catch the ball. And I like the fact that they don't have one guy that you go to, like Funches or this guy or that guy. Let them all play. Keep them all happy. Hey, when they come out of the tunnel, there's 100-something guys in uniform. Why should 22 guys play? Let some guys in there, And the one thing I liked about Arrow when he used to, and it worked in '66.
Going back.
Sometimes you're gonna get that second-string quarterback in when you're whipping these other teams to get them some game experience, because taking snaps over on Cardi field isn't anymore, but taking field in the Goog isn't the same as during the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got to get those guys in there once in a while. Let them play a little bit, because if anything does happen to Golson, the other guy's got to play. Then what do? You come in with a guy that's never had any experience.
No, and that's why Kelly's next man in is actually working. It's because you do see more people getting out on the field, so it's not a foreign experience like, oh God, what am I going to do? They're ready for it.
Right. And last year, let's face it, everybody thought after the 2012 season that Nix and Tuitt, we'd have a dominant defense. I'm going to tell you something. With him being the way he was, handicapped to it, and Nix, that Jared Jones and Day are outplaying him this year. They really are. They're outplaying. And Notre Dame, if Notre Dame has no key injuries, if Jared Jones and those guys can all stay healthy, then they got some guys like Collins, but the guys that are playing right now, if they can keep all those guys basically healthy, they'll be tough. Because those guys, he made some great plays yesterday. Yeah. Jared, they always talk about the guys that make the tackle, but he was stacking a lot of those guys up and pushing them back and, doing things. I used to always like to go to Notre Dame and sit up in the end zone. They always say the 50-yard line's the best. Up in the end zone, you can see all the line play. You can see high up. And I used to watch some of the linemen and just watch some of them. They never get – the only time they get any kind of credit, the offensive line, is when they make a mistake.
Yeah,
and they put their number on the the jumbotron and all this stuff. But
But
I like to watch the line play and see. There's a lot of guys there that played some really good football yesterday. And that's why I think that the whole defense deserves credit, because early in the year they think all these guys we lost this guy, we lost that guy. You never know how those guys are going to develop,
Right.
and they're developing well. And Jaron Jones, he's really come on. He's really come on. Who knows? At the end of his career, he might be better than Stephon Tuitt. Because I remember one kid coming out of Moeller one year, played for Notre Dame, was Tony Hunter. He was much better as a freshman than he was as a senior. There's nothing that says that a freshman can't be better than a senior. I know that they
Very
make
true.
their news, but if the guy's better, he's got to play.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to play. You can't hurt the team by saying, "Oh, you've been here for 3 years and now it's your turn." Not if the other guy's better. You're not.
Right.
You know, let him in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ryan, anything to add?
No, I think he's got it, and I completely agree with him. I love the fire too. This has been absolutely great. I've enjoyed every second of this.
Right? I was like, Dad, do you think you want to be on the show today? And he's like, oh no, I don't know. And I was like, oh, are you sure? Clearly.
Well, no, I mean, I mean, I watch. You know, here's what I do with the game. I usually listen to the first quarter outside smoking a cigar. I listen to Pinkett and Cricky. And then I come in and watch the second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go outside and sort of, play around in the yard for the halftime.
Okay.
And then I usually, listen to the third quarter on the radio, and I come back and watch, the rest of the game. But I take the whole game, of course.
He does.
And I'll watch it later, when
so we can analyze and do the show.
And it's beats watching Oprah, or some of these other crazy shows on TV. I mean, or the news. I mean, the news, or anything political. I mean, at least it's live. It's a bunch of kids playing for their own school. I mean, I could, like Stanford yesterday, had like 2 or 3 guys related to former Notre Dame players, like Coley O'Brien, Tom Carter's kid was playing,
Right.
And then today I was watching a little bit of the Detroit Tiger game, and they mentioned Torrey Hunter was at the game yesterday watching his son at South Bend, and it was really nice. And it's and then David Robinson to watch this kid, But it's just neat to watch. It's part of Americana. It's just great. I mean, it's.
Now we're on America.
Well, I just love college football, and I love college football on the campus.
Yeah.
On the campus. There's nothing like going to the campus. And going to Notre Dame, that's magical. When you step at Notre Dame's campus, there are ghosts up there. I mean, there are. Rockney and them guys are still running around up there. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. And Rockney's house is for sale in South Bend right now.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it is, yeah.
Is this like a plug?
If I had the money, I'd buy it.
Do you have the address?
Well, I saw it in the Blue Gold.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I've seen it up on a few different websites and on Twitter. I think it was a couple weeks ago.
My birthday's in February, everyone.
So, yeah. But no, it's just one of those things. You go up there and it's just,
And if you were up there this weekend, they won 17-14.
Well, you always notice when you go to Notre Dame, there's always people coming late because they've been walking around the campus and they're in the wrong section. They're on this side of the goal end zone, and they should be on the other side.
Not everyone can usher like you.
Well, I have to help the usher.
Anyways, now that we've talked about everything, even, way back when, is there anything else we need to add before we sign this one off?
I think we're good. We can talk about UNC another time.
Well, I just think Notre Dame's going to just keep on doing what they're doing. Just keep on.
Fair enough. Just keep
on taking every game. Act like every game is Alabama or Florida State.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Don't worry about down the line. You guys keep on playing them as they come up. They're 5-0. And everybody was thinking this year that they lose to Michigan and they lose to Stanford. Of course, at the beginning of the year, you don't know how good anybody is.
Right.
But most pundits were saying 7-5.
Mm-hmm.
So to make the pundit happy, we only have to go 2-5 the rest of the year, and all the pundits will be happy. But guess what? They're not going to be happy
because we're not going to do
Notre
that.
Dame's going to keep on winning.
Yeah.
And if this guy keeps on getting players, I mean, Notre Dame's going to be, as long as he stays there, which will probably be, 5,
I'm
6.
saying these things that are like jinxes.
No, but I'm just saying, stay about 11, 12 years, that's,
Yeah.
But then as long as he
stays there,
as long as Gorder, I mean, Notre Dame will be in every game.
Yeah.
They really will be. I mean, those days of losing to, like, Tulsa and USF and his teams, now he's got the game plan going. Right. That's what he wants.
And we don't schedule.
Then we were just sort of testing things out.
Right.
But it's not like the Charlie Weiss era. It's not like Willingham. It's not.
No, it's not.
When Notre Dame goes on the field now, what do they think? They think they're going to win.
Oh yes, definitely. It's a completely different program.
They know they got then they didn't know what the hell they were doing, and that's just the way it works. Now they know what they're doing. They got the chemistry now.
On that note.
And if you think you're going to win,
this note.
if you think you're going to win with confidence,
Yeah.
you know.
No, it is a mental
and
game.
Well, that's why Alabama, Notre Dame, Southern Cal, Texas, and those teams are hard to beat when they're good, because when it comes down to crunch time, the other team starts to worry.
Yeah.
I remember UCLA when they won 88 straight games or 11 national championships. And they put their pants on like everybody else, but they played a heck of a lot better.
So.
It makes a lot of difference. And the other team starts to choke.
There you go.
Well,
we have confidence. We're going to keep winning.
Well, that's what you got to do.
Fair.
Well, and then next year,
Good
these guys,
stuff.
if they keep on playing well and everybody stays well and nobody worries about the pros, they'll all be back next year, you know. But we're living a moment. We went this year.
Yes.
You
We're
never
living in the
know.
moment.
You never know about. You're always worried about next. You remember '88 Notre Dame? Everybody was worried about the '89 team. Oh, they did. Well, we won in '88, and in '89 we fell a game short. So don't worry about next year.
We'll worry about now.
While it's in our hands right now, let's go right now.
So, on that note, here now, North Carolina next week. I'm Molly Moran. He's Pat Moran.
Hey, it was great
He's
being with
Ryan
you.
Ritter. This was fun.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Nice meeting you.
Thanks for coming on, Pat. I appreciate it. This was awesome.
Go Irish.
Bye-bye.
Since we are her loyal sons, we'll get 'em on the run, boys. We got 'em on the run. Yes, we are her loyal sons. We'll get 'em on the run, boys. We got 'em on the run.